These stairs worry me. I'm convinced I'm going to fall on the way up or the way down. Can I kick off by just adding my congratulations to 10 years of the work of Sea Change, and do hope that it's an absolutely brilliant day for everyone. I've had the pleasure of making my own small contribution for almost, 8 years now. I'd been sounded out by a former member of Sea Change staff, a guy called Sean Keogh. And Sean was already known to me as a friend of a friend. And Sean had asked whether I might be interested in joining the board, and invited me along to an event that was held in the Grand Old Opry across in Govan. And it was an evening sort of stars in their eyes. I particularly remember Elton John, but the real star turn of the night was a 4'10" Shirley Bassey, and she was absolutely stunningly good. That night, I met more than a few characters and witnessed a remarkable range of talent. Most importantly, I saw enthusiasm, participation, sheer joy, and genuine commitment from the people who were working for the organisation. As a result of that evening, I had absolutely no hesitation about joining the board of Sea Change, and have never once, however long some of the meetings have lasted, have never once regretted that decision. I'm really interested in history, and you might forgive me, Holly's already mentioned the bad old days, and I can sort of remember the bad old days. Because Sea Change is not my first involvement of working with people with learning disabilities. My first involvement was, I hate to say it, but the best part of almost 40 years ago, 1973, and I worked for a summer in 1973 as the garden labourer, or a garden labourer, at Ladies Bridge Hospital just outside Banff. And every summer thereafter, all the way through the senior years at school and at university, I worked as a nursing assistant at Ladies Bridge Hospital. Ladies Bridge was the biggest hospital of its type anywhere between Aberdeen and Inverness, and was lovingly described in the language of the time, which now seems hideous in its ignorance and its insensitivity. But it was called the Hospital for the Mentally Defective. It sat in lovely rural surroundings, and many of the buildings were relatively new, and the majority of the staff, from the matron, I remember her well, Miss McConaughey, the staff, the majority of them, were caring, well-intentioned, and committed to their work. But that said, the ward, or it was a villa, it was called, that I worked in, was locked every single door 24 hours a day. The lives of the poor folk who were actually living there was entirely dominated by the shift pattern of the staff. I always worked day shift. The night shift had everybody up, out of their bed, sitting in the dining room for the day shift arriving at 7 o'clock, and breakfast was served. Similarly, 12 hours later, when the day shift clocked off at 7 o'clock in the evening, we had everybody in their pyjamas and tucked up into their beds, the curtains closed, and the lights off. That was life at Ladies Bridge. In the morning when we arrived, there was a sort of brief flurry of serving breakfast, and there was bath time, and then we dished out enough drugs to make sure that people didn't get overexcited by what was going to happen during the rest of the day. And the rest of the day, between then and bedtime, was sitting around in the day ward, sitting. There was sometimes a television on, and there were sometimes tapes on. But that was it. That was life at Ladysbridge. Ladysbridge was a perfect example of an approach that harked back to the Victorian era. It was partly out of sight, out of mind. It was partly well-intentioned. But it was a model that went back to the poorhouse. It was a model which lasted far, far, far too long. And it's one of the reasons why I find it so rewarding to be part of Sea Change, is that is what existed not all that long ago. And Sea Change is the exact opposite of everything that was wrong in Ladysbridge. Sea Change has got a real commitment to people's lives, has got a real commitment to recognising that everybody that we have the privilege to work for is actually an individual with personality, with needs, with interests, with desires. I can actually remember almost everyone that I worked with at Ladysbridge. I remember all the characters. I remember some of them getting angry. I remember some of them laughing. I remember some of them having wee bits of peculiarities. I remember as a 17-year-old, the first time I worked in the ward, being a bit shocked, I have to say, I was young at the time, to discover that an interest in nookie wasn't restricted to the nurses' hostel. People had ordinary ideas, ordinary lives, and ordinary desires. And Sea Change, more than any other organisation I've met, recognises and tries to build on that. They also try to build on the idea of relationships with family, with friends, with the community in which we now work. I think there was a huge fear when places like Ladysbridge started to close down and the idea of care in the community came into being, that care in the community was just an excuse for cutting costs. What Sea Change, and there are other organisations clearly have done the same, have used that as an opportunity to actually make real change in people's lives and to make sure that people that we work for can live full and active lives. But that does come at a cost. And there has to be fears at the moment that there are certain elements within the funding mechanism which seem to suggest that we can achieve those wonderful outcomes with less and less and less resource available. And I do think we have to make it quite clear to anyone who's listening that that cannot be achieved endlessly on an ever-diminishing amount of money. Sea Change has, as I've said, led the way in so many things. The idea today of self-directed support is something that Sea Change has done and pioneered for all of its 10 years. We do nothing which has not been expressed as a wish by the people that we work for. The people that we work for decide what we do for them. And hopefully, we do less and less, because eventually what we want to be able to do is to step back from people's lives. We don't want any way of going back to a regime of bed and fed and medicated. People have to have the opportunity to live entirely independent lives, and that is what Sea Change has been so remarkably good at. I think there's going to be some more little clips of what Sea Change has been able to do to help people make a difference in their own lives, and I think that will be coming up shortly. Thank you.